Hi, welcome to the Dungeons & Dragons tutorial for DM for Hire. I am Julia, your Dungeon Master. Basically, I run the world in which you are going to become heroes of your own story. As you know, Dungeons & Dragons is a role-playing game played mostly with your imagination, a set of rules, and a set of dice. This character sheet represents the rules by which your character, or you, may operate within the world. Dungeons & Dragons consists of social interaction, exploration, and combat, and I'm going to go over a little bit about how to do those three things using your character sheet in this video. So let's start with social. Your character is built of a robust variety of skills, abilities, and basic traits of their race and class. So the first thing about building a character is you need to come up with a name, and you can place that right up here. I have come up with the race, class, and background and alignment for your character. That way, all of the numbers and nitty-gritty stuff that comes along with those numbers are already baked into your character sheet here. Your race gives you different physical and mental abilities, and your class is really defining of what things you're good at doing. It's kind of like an occupation. Your background is what you used to do before you became an adventurer, and it gives you certain abilities and features that have already been baked into your character sheet, and also a little bit of description of what you're good at down here. Your alignment is whether or not you're good to evil, lawful to chaotic. So here's a really cool infographic kind of going over that a little bit. But needless to say, if you're a good character, you're going to try and do good things. If you're an evil character, you're going to try and do evil things. And if you're a neutral character, you're probably going to do something in between. If you're lawful, you're going to follow the law. If you're chaotic, you're going to be more unpredictable. That's really the two scales by which we discern alignment. So keep in mind when role-playing, what is your alignment? This character's alignment is neutral, so they're probably not going to act too unpredictably, and they're not going to be too good or too evil. They're likely going to be based around self-interested motivations. On your second page of your character sheet is going to be some additional physical attributes that you can arrange for your character as you decide, and also the opportunity to write a background, a backstory, some personality traits, ideals, bonds, and flaws. I've provided optional storylines here for you in case you are having a little trouble getting started with what your character might be like. You can use either. You can either use the optional backstory and traits, or you can create them on your own. That's totally up to you. So, into the nitty-gritty. For exploration and combat, we make a few different types of roles, and to those roles, we're going to add modifiers. The most important thing to remember is that when you want to accomplish something within this world, you just tell me, your Dungeon Master, and I'm going to let you know what is needed in order to accomplish that. So, the most important thing to remember is your basic attribute scores. That includes strength, your physical prowess, dexterity, your agility, constitution, your hardiness, intelligence, your mental acuity, wisdom, your ability to accurately perceive the world around you, and your charisma, which is your ability to influence others. So if you're ever doing anything and let's say you would like to perceive whether or not there is something in the room that you're looking for, that would either be an investigation check, because you're using your intelligence to accurately see what the thing is, or more likely it would be a perception check, which falls under the wisdom category. So different skills are things that you have been practicing throughout your life, some of which you're better at than others. Those things that you're better at are represented by these filled-in bubbles. As you can see, those are higher scores, modifiers, than others. But the main thing to remember, once again, is Dungeons and Dragons is really about creativity. So you let me know what you would like to do as a character, and I'll let you know how you can accomplish that goal. So, combat. Combat's a little bit complicated, but it's nothing that we can not move past together. So, there are three main things you're going to do in combat. You're going to move, you're going to take one main action, and you're going to take one bonus action. You can do these three things in any order you choose. So you could take your main action and then your bonus action and then move. You could move halfway, take your bonus action and then take your main action. It doesn't really matter as long as you do those three things. When you move your speed. This character has a speed of 25 feet because they're a halfling. Most characters will have a speed of 30 feet. Then you can do your main action. This includes dash, which allows you to move a second time, dodge, which effectively means you're spending your entire turn dodging away from enemies' attacks, which means that it's harder for them to hit you, disengage, which allows you to move away from a combat without having your opponents have the opportunity to attack you, help, which gives an advantage to an ally on your team who's trying to accomplish something else. Hide, which hides you from other people's sight so they aren't able to attack you. And also if you're a rogue, it gives you a special ability. Ready, which really just means you get to take an action later on in combat. So let's say there's a circumstance where there's nobody nearby you to actually attack with your short sword, but you really want to attack with your short sword as soon as your enemy approaches you. Then you would say, I'm going to ready my short sword so that when my enemy is within melee range, I can attack them. Later on in combat, when that person comes into range, you'll be able to perform that action. The other options that you have as your main action is a weapon attack. Using these specific weapons, you can choose one per round. If you were to attack with your short sword here, you would need to be in base contact, melee range, with your enemy. You would roll 1d20 and add 5 to the hit, and if it was successful, which I would let you know, then you would roll for damage. Spellcasters are also able to cast spells during combat, so let's go to one of those really quick. So as you can see, this is a druid hill dwarf, and they're able to cast a spell as one of their actions in addition to the other options. And I'll go over spells a little bit later, so those of you who aren't playing spellcasters can tune out at that point. Last but not least, in combat, you're allowed to do a bonus action. These bonus actions are based on your class. So a rogue has the bonus actions of dash, dodge, just disengage, and hide. So that means that they're able to perform those as a bonus action in addition to being able to perform them as an action. What's really important to remember here is that you only pick one action and one bonus action from this list every combat. So your bonus action is going to vary based on your character. So make sure you read over that section on your individual character sheet and ask any questions when you arrive about what those things are. So those are the bases of playing. Some other things that I haven't defined yet that might come up of importance to you are your armor class. That just means how hard it is for an enemy to hit you. Your hit points, which is your health. So as you take damage during a combat, you're going to decrease the number of hit points you have based on how much damage you've gotten. Once you drop to 0, you pass out, and then would need to make either death saving throws, which we'll go into if it happens, or you would need somebody to heal you. A few other elements of your character that might come up. Equipment. Everybody has different equipment within that their character is holding. It starts off with what type of armor you're having. Probably a personal item, potentially some tools that are very helpful for you, like the lock-picking kit and the grappling hook, and maybe a magic item or two. This character has a potion of healing, which allows them to regain hit points during a battle if they're feeling a little bit sore. You also have your proficiencies, such as the languages you speak, and the tools that you're actually very good with using. So now let's move into spell casting for those of you who are going to play spellcasters. So spells come with different levels. The level is really representative of how forceful and powerful that specific spell is. So the lowest level spell is going to be called a cantrip. This is basically a fun little trick that a spellcaster has practiced over and over again to the point that it takes almost no effort at all in order to perform. Cantrips have unlimited uses every single day, so you can just use it over and over again. The only restriction on a cantrip is how long it takes to cast. Then you have level 1 spells, level 2 spells. Level 1 spells are obviously less powerful than level 2 spells. The importance of these different levels of spells is something called spell slots. So every caster has a limited ability of what power level of spells they're able to cast every day. For instance, this Hildorf Druid is able to cast 4 level 1 spells every day and 2 level 2 spells. This adds an element of choice in when, where, and how you would like to perform those spells to make sure that you're not running out of spell slots before you rest. Every time you go to sleep at night, your spell slots are fully recover. So this character has a total of 5 spells that they can cast as actions. They can cast 1 per round if they would like. On the 3rd page of your character sheet, you're going to find a full spell list that gives the descriptions of how your spells work. Make sure you read over this before you arrive so that you have an understanding of how your spells work. So, for instance, Gust, the cantrip, has a casting time of 1 action. That means it takes your entire action in order to cast this spell. It has a range of 30 feet, which means that the effect of the spell can be up to 30 feet. And it has a duration of instantaneous, meaning that it lasts only for a moment. A comparison would be Entangle. Entangle has a duration of up to 1 minute. It's a concentration spell, which we'll go into in a moment. Up to 1 minute means that this spell lasts, as it says, up to 1 minute long, and then the spell dissipates. Go ahead and read through all of the different things that your spells can do. Some of them can be attacks, just like a weapon attack, except it's using a spell slot instead of a weapon. Some of them will make your opponents have to do saving throws, just like you might have to do saving throws at some point in time. The last element of spellcasting that's important to remember is concentration spells. They have a specific set of rules. So, for instance, Moonbeam is a concentration spell. Moonbeam creates a 5-foot radius, 40-foot high cylinder centered on a point within 90 feet of you. It causes damage to your enemies when they enter that moonbeam, that 5-foot radius, 40-foot high cylinder. But it's a concentration spell, meaning that for the entire time that you're casting this spell, you have to spend a little bit of your focus on maintaining that spell so that it can last the full duration of 1 minute. So if you cast a concentration spell, you have to make sure to hold your concentration on that spell. So this means that if you're going to take damage, then you have to make a saving throw in order to maintain your concentration on that spell. If you fail that save, the spell ends. If you become incapacitated or killed, obviously you can't concentrate and the spell ends. Or if you cast another spell that requires that amount of focus, such as concentration, the first spell ends. So let's say that I've cast Moonbeam, and I've got my Moonbeam going up. It looks cool, everybody's running into it and taking damage, I'm pretty happy about it. And then on my next turn, I really want to cast Entangle. Well, what happens when I cast Entangle, because that's also a concentration spell, is Moonbeam now is deactivated. I can no longer concentrate on this spell while I'm making Entangle happen. So I'm sacrificing the Moonbeam and casting the Entangle in its place. And that's okay. Now let's say on my next turn, I really want to cast Earth Tremor. Earth Tremor is not a concentration spell, so what that means is I can continue to have Entangle going ahead, and I can also cast Earth Tremor, so I can have both of these spells cast simultaneously without any worry. So that's our basic overview. Go through your character sheets and go ahead and fill out the blank spots with your personal characteristics, your backstory, your personality trait. Read over your spells if you're a spellcaster, and most importantly, have a lot of fun.